So I'm Gerie Owen. I'm a lead quality engineer at ZS. I've been in testing pretty much my whole life. I've been in various domains. Right now, obviously, healthcare, but I was in transportation, utilities, insurance, and lots of other good stuff. I've been involved in Agile and DevOps now for several years, and I want to talk a little bit about the DevOps mindset and how we can bring testing into that. As Nigel said earlier, we're all responsible for transformation. And that's really going to be the point of my whole talk. Transformation is obviously mega change, but it's about change. And what we're really talking about here is how to change our mindset. And what is that going to mean? It's going to mean for all of us, it's going to mean redefining our limits. We need to know where our limits are and how we can push them further. So we'll talk about how to do that. That's really what reimagination is about. So our agenda this afternoon, we'll talk about what is the new mindset, how DevOps teams should approach a shift to a quality mindset, and it is a shift. We'll talk about some key process changes for testing in DevOps, and we'll talk about some roles that the tester actually can play in DevOps, and then some final thoughts if we have some time to do that. So let's quickly talk a little bit about DevOps. I think we all may have various definitions of DevOps, but I like Amazon Web Services best. It's a combination of cultural philosophies, practices, and tools that help businesses boost its applications and service delivery. So I also would add to that people. And people are really what this whole mindset is about. So let's talk about what the DevOps mindset would be. Well, what else can we think of? First, I think the first thing we think of is elimination of silos. And that's critical to bringing testing into the DevOps mindset. We fail fast. We talk about continuous learning. We integrate in automated pipelines continuously. What does that need? Testing. We want to increase velocity, but we also want to increase quality at the same time. And finally, we talk about the continuous learning fields. So what does this mean for quality? Well, this means that quality encompasses the DevOps process. We have to have quality throughout. It means the testing must be throughout the continuous integration pipeline. And the only way we're going to get to this is a quality-centric mindset. So let's talk about that quality-centric mindset. What is that? Well, it means flexibility, adaptability, and empathy. It means willingness, figuratively, sometimes literally, to walk a mile in somebody else's shoes. Elimination of silos, right? Continuous curiosity and innovation, focusing on communication and collaboration. And finally, I think critical thinking as a way of solving problems. So how do we shift to this mindset? What does it mean? Well, it really means that the entire team is responsible for quality. That's a short statement, right? But it's a big shift. So what it means is that we have to adjust our mindset. Now, I kind of like this. It's how do we adjust a mindset? Well, it's about getting your head in the right spot. But again, that's a big ask, and it's a big effort. It's going to take us a change of how we think, and that's what the reimagination is about. So how do we shift to this mindset? Well, I think in order to talk about that, I want to break it down into three sections. It's obviously a focus on quality, but we want to talk about the challenge, what that challenge is, Then we will look at an approach. Anytime we have a challenge, we need to, we got to plan. We have to plan because, the saying, fail to plan, then you're planning to fail. So we have to understand the approach. And then finally, how are we going to enable this? So let's start with the challenge. Well, there are 6 roles in DevOps. You have your UX, you've got QA, you've got security, code, architect, developers. But the challenge is to bring them all together. And the team, embracing that team responsibility for quality as a collective mindset. And to do that, we have to align skill sets to embrace that holistic approach to quality. So I think when I think about how to approach the mindset, I think back to the 3 ways, the DevOps principles that are described in the 3 ways. Do we all remember what those are? Systems thinking, amplifying feedback loops, and the biggie, creating that culture of experimentation and continual learning. So I think that these are the principles that can be the basis for creating that major change that's required to reimagine the testing mindset. So let's look at how that can be. We're going to look at each one individually. So if we look at systems thinking, what is systems thinking? Well, it focuses on the entire process, on the performance of the entire process. We talk about eliminating silos. And in this case, we're eliminating silos based on the role or skill set within the teams. Anytime when changes are made, when fundamental changes are made to operations and siloed initiatives, they're likely to fail. And this one, that's particularly true. If everybody is going to embrace being responsible for quality, it can't be a siloed initiative. Otherwise, it'll be just the testers embracing quality. And that's not what's going to work. So, and finally, systems thinking enables innovative fundamental shifts in the test processes through technology. You can shift your mindset, but then you have to put it into practice. And that's where shifting the test processes and the technology become important. So let's talk about amplifying feedback loops. Well, this is critical because you're going to need to make corrections early and often as you shift to that team responsibility. The ball, as you do that, as you shift what people are working on, who's responsible for what, don't think that somebody's going to drop the ball now and again. And when somebody drops the ball, well, get over it and move on. That's why you need the early and often, the amplifying feedback loops. If you see if you see something happen quick, you can fix it quick. It's like bugs. Bugs, the bane of my existence. But it's so much more important to find bugs early. And actually, as we'll talk about in a few minutes, prevent bugs, quality engineering. Amplifying feedback loops focuses on responsive, efficient, and effective customer service to all of our internal and external customers. And isn't that really what DevOps is about? Now let's talk about creating the culture of continuous experimentation and learning. What's really important here is that encourages innovation without fear of consequences if a new process or approach initially fails. This is going to be a new process. And a lot of people, you find that often if a bug is found, if there's a failure, what happens? Blame it on QA, right? You missed the bug! Well, there's going to be fear of consequences if everybody is now afraid of missing a bug. So we have to, that's part of the shift in the mindset. We have to get rid of fear of making mistakes, missing a bug. And this also allows team members to learn new skill sets and collaborate more efficiently. And that's important too, because DevOps does involve team members learning new things and doing new things. So how do we enable that quality mindset? Well, we have to enable it through the continuous integration process. And if you look at this, I like this chart because it basically shows how, from the high level, we look at the business focus, we look at the customer-centric focus. That's the focus of DevOps. And within that, we have our 3 ways. And then underneath that, we have our systems thinking, our whole integrated CI pipeline. So we have to bring the CI pipeline under the umbrella of our values and of our customer-centric focuses. So now let's talk a little bit about the process changes. Well, there were 2 biggies really here. There's continuous testing that involves a focus on quality throughout the process, as well as streamlining the test processes. And then there's the alignment of the quality roles based on the skill set. Now, they're both biggies, so we're going to talk a little bit about each individually. So what's continuous testing? Well, the Forrester Wave put together a nice definition. It's a core capability in Agile and DevOps. Get that? Core capability, right? This is, again, where we need that focus on quality. And from continuous testing comes quality. So it's the core capability where all the testing activities run continuously in an integrated fashion within development and delivery. So that's within our continuous integration pipeline. Bug fixing is immediately enabled. Test environments are provisioned instantly. And unit, functional, and non-functional tests are run in an automated way, all orchestrated by the continuous integration and continuous delivery tools. Wow. That's pretty big, I think. So let's maybe break that down a little bit. You can kind of see in the picture here that testing is around the pipeline. There again, that's the customer-centric, quality-centric focus. What is the quality-centric focus? So our quality-centric focus is about building quality in. That's quality engineering. Quality engineering is about defect prevention versus defect detection. Building quality in, again, means that everybody has to be responsible for quality because it starts the beginning of the process and doesn't end even into production. So how do we do that? Well, we implement quality reviews, ambiguity reviews of the requirements, code design reviews, test case design reviews, code reviews, inspections along the way. We can implement techniques such as pair testing and ATDD, BDD. Those are all great ways to have a quality-centric focus because it brings quality in throughout the process. And the other thing that's critically important here is that testers are embedded in all of the DevOps teams. That one is very critical because if your testers are a separate group off to the side, they're effectively a silo. And that defeats your whole purpose. So the quality-centric focus also requires that we integrate automated test and checkpoints throughout the continuous integration pipeline. Again, that brings in fail fast, because if we fail fast, we fix fast. Then we need to amplify the automated feedback loops in order to enable risk-based decision-making. Risk-based is the critical thing here. We can't test everything within continuous testing, but we have to test what is the most important. And how do we determine that? We determine that based on risk, And we determine that based on impact to the customer. And in order to do that, we need the whole team to weigh in from their backgrounds, their mindsets. The testers looks at how potential bugs will impact the customers. The PO looks at what's important to the customer, what's important to selling the product. The devs look at which code it has the most potential risk in it. And so that we have stages in this pipeline. We look at the unit tests, the integration tests, code analysis, distribution. We need to have those integrated tests all the way throughout. And then at the end, we need to trigger some things manually. Our UAT and our UX testing. That's something that can never be automated and should never be automated. So how do we streamline the test process? Well, it's all about the pyramid, right? We have to push all the automated testing to the base of the pyramid. This is shift left. This is bringing, and again, shift left, what's that about? We talk about that, but basically that's moving testing earlier in the process. The reason we want to do that is not just to bring quality throughout the process, but it's also about making sure that we find bugs early. They're easiest and cheapest to fix the earlier that we find the bugs. So our unit tests, our component tests, those are the ones that we need to automate the most. The other thing is that automation is easier to maintain in the unit and component levels. In the system tests, when you're automating UI testing, you're constantly maintaining it for all of the new features that come through, the features that are deprecated. It's almost if you have huge, and the other problem with huge regression systems tests is that they take too long to run. And finally, your manual tests. You have to, even though you may not have a lot of them, you need to have them, and you need to have them very focused on key customer-centric features, customer-centric things like UI, the user experience through your UI, the workflows. So, and that's where including the risk-based and the exploratory testing comes in. There are those edge cases. You're not going to find the edge cases in your automated test. It just isn't going to happen. So where do we go from here? We go to the other end of the continuous integration process, and we shift right. We can't, when we're continuously integrating and when we are deploying fast and frequently, continuous monitoring becomes even more important. You need to monitor and test because of that, finding the automated feedback loops, fail fast, getting the information fast. And we have to continue to monitor in production. That every time is the more frequently we release to production, the more important that monitoring is. If we are going to release bugs into production, we know that. But our goal now, once it's in production, is to find them and remediate them before our customers find them. So shift right, just as important as shift left. Now, how do we want to align quality roles based on skill sets? Now, this is one of the things that maybe we should just very quickly talk about quality and testing. You know, we've thrown about a couple of different words throughout this presentation, and I think it might be good to stop here and talk about them. We've talked about quality engineering, we've talked about quality assurance, we've talked about testing. Well, quality engineering is ensuring quality throughout the process. And what that means is quality assurance and testing actually become techniques of quality engineering. So the role that we're asking the focus, the mindset that we're asking our engineers, our DevOps engineers to take on is quality engineering. So then it becomes, okay, so who and how do we do the testing? Well, we can break it down, and developers know how to test, right? They write unit tests and component tests. They're perfectly capable of testing APIs, of writing scripts. They can even write the automated scripts for functional and non-functional automation tests. And orchestrating the pipeline. That can go to developers, that can go to release engineers, but that's all part of quality engineering. Now, what your testers bring to the table is what to test. They will bring the test techniques, the negative testing, the boundary value testing, all of the potential types of testing that the developers might not necessarily think about. And why aren't they thinking about that? Because that's not their role. So the testers should be designing the test, doing the test planning, the test case design, employing the test techniques, optimizing tests for optimization for automation. You want to make sure when you're automating tests that you're automating tests that you're going to reuse. It's not cost effective, and there is no benefit to automating tests that aren't critical, that aren't most important, that aren't reusable and scalable. And the testers are the ones that can choose those tests. And then there's, of course, the risk-based manual and exploratory testing. We just talked about that and how important it is. And the testers are the ones that are most skill-based set up to do that. And finally, the user experience testing. That's another one. You don't want to wait for you talk about UAT being important to that, but you want to also make sure that your testers are doing user experience early and often. Now let's talk about let's come to our testers' roles in DevOps. Well, I think we kind of already touched on that a little bit. It's quality engineering. So I think the best definition I've seen of a quality engineer is someone who applies engineering to different parts of the development process for the benefit of quality. So if we look at it in that definition, really, doesn't that mean that everyone on our DevOps team is a quality engineer? I would think so. But there are also some particular duties and skill sets and things that a quality engineer should do, and that's having the complete vision of quality so that they can contribute to the entire development process. So our quality engineer needs to be a quality champion. They'll develop a QA strategy. They will work with the requirements, ambiguities reviews, lead those. They can do code reviews. They will bring in test automation at all levels, and that doesn't necessarily mean actually scripting the automation. That means doing the automation strategy, planning out what we're going to use automation for and how. Continuous integration. The testers need to understand it and understand how to bring continuous testing into it. The user experience champion. I've always said that the tester is the champion of the customer, and that's really what the user experience champion is. And we can't forget our non-functional testing. If you're not doing non-functional testing early and often, You could have bugs if you have a security bug, if you have a performance bug, those usually go all the way back to design. And in DevOps, you can't be finding something ready to release that has a bug that requires a change to design. And the post-production monitoring. We did talk about that again, how fast we have to get things into production. That means it's even more important to monitor and find issues before our customer does. So some of the potential roles here is the quality engineering manager, the person that manages the process, that champions everyone's responsibility, those that lead the quality conversations from beginning to end. Those are the reviews. Coaches all the team members in implementing quality into every task. Helps change that mindset. Now, the quality engineering architect is a little bit more hands-on. They'll develop the quality strategy, plan, roadmap, documents the process, plans the automation and tooling, defines and implements the best practices, standards, monitors using KPIs, and defines and implements roles and responsibilities. Now, from there, we have roles for testers. These are probably less important. Well, they're certainly as important, but these are maybe for people that don't want to actually be a manager. You have your functional quality engineer that focuses on the UX, the customer. These are going to be the people that are going to, again, champion throughout the process, provide a focus on the customer from the beginning right through the product development into production. They would participate in the specification by example workshops. There'll be a domain expert. These are people, this could be a PO. This could be a digital analyst. And their focus is finding is the user experience. Now, you can have a technical quality engineer, which is a SESDET. They may concentrate on white box or gray box. They'll implement continuous testing. And they will tend to probably focus on automation. And then, of course, you've got a non-functional. Your non-functional tester, these are the ones that specialize in the ilities. The ilities are things that include performance, security, mobile. They champion, now they'll be championing quality too, but they'll be closer to the operations and sometimes even the post production processes. So I have some final thoughts on the quality mindset. We all can, how do we see ourselves? I think a mindset is how do we see ourselves? And here are some ways that we might see ourselves. As a flexible generalist, this is somebody who doesn't necessarily know the answer, but can quickly find it, even if it's not their area of expertise. And that's important because we will be, as a team, getting into things that aren't necessarily our level of our area of expertise, but we need to know how to find those answers. We need to rely on expertise. The experts may not be the best people to apply their expertise because they don't necessarily have that mindset. They may try to apply the same thing to everything. If you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. But a generalist will take that and take the expertise and apply it to the problem at hand. Now, there's the truth-seeking negotiator. Testers, their role is looking at the truth of the software. It's not just necessarily even about test results, but is there quality there? Does it work? And that's something that all of our team has to take on. And sometimes we have to negotiate for time and resources to really get to that truth. And in this way, this is important because in this way, we will champion the customer and protect the reputation of the organization. And finally, there's the Swiss Army knife. This is really means that we need to have a combination of skills that'll serve our needs depending on the challenges being thrown at us. Kind of a little bit like the flexible generalist. But if all of our team members take that kind of mindset, that's how we will shift to the reimagination of the tester's role. So, in conclusion, DevOps really requires a new mindset, a reimagining of the role of testing, and a commitment to quality from all of the members of the team. And this new role brings the focus on the unique skills that a tester brings to the team, but provides quality through a customer-centric design. And it requires all DevOps team members to have this focus. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gerie. I think this is really indeed a relevant topic in DevOps today. It is important to shift testing both left and right, and also incorporate testing in those DevOps teams, not just to think about the pipelines and the cloud infra. Quality is important, so testing should be there as well. And for myself, I spotted ATDD because as an advocate for acceptance test-driven development, I can't praise enough how that's a key point in achieving the quality-centered focus. So yeah, and also the user experience that's sometimes neglected in the testing areas. So I'm really glad that you mentioned it then. Testing is the champion of the customer. I think that's something that I'm going to put on a post-it and share it to others.
That's something that I've brought into all of my presentations. And you know, you think about, and I've always said that the tester is the champion of the customer, but I think it's really time to change that, because testing really is the champion of the customer, and we're all now responsible for quality and testing. So I like that better, actually.
That's true. Nobody can say that they aren't the champions. Everyone needs to be the champion for customer.
True.
Bring the value, because that's the thing. We want to deliver the value to the customer and the end users, not to forget them either. All right. There are some questions in the QA. I'll ask the first question. You went a little bit through with this Swiss Army knife, so it's kind of similar question here. What is your magic trick to teach or shift the whole organization towards the quality-centric focus or mindset?
Well, I think it kind of is a combination of getting people to understand that their roles are, the role in quality is important. I think to bring it to the organization, sometimes it takes, and I think I think it was Nigel that mentioned this. Sometimes, you know, to start that kind of a transformation, it takes an epic fail. But I think if there's any magic trick, it is finding some of those big issues up front before it gets to, you know, anytime there's a epic fail in production, oh God, we all get in trouble. But we don't get as much credit for finding these epic fails ahead of time. I think metrics will, and how are you going to tell that? Well, you know, I think that senior level tends to respond to metrics. So if you have metrics that tell a story, if you look at things like defect removal efficiency, if you look at the severity of the bugs that you found early on, you know, well, look at what this could have done in production. I think it's really story-based specific, and not story in the term of user story, but telling the story of the quality of the software. I think it's those kind of metrics. And usually, if you don't have the quality focus, those metrics don't look so good. And
yeah, I think there was another question on this topic as well, that if senior leaders want to embrace DevOps, can't see the value, prefer silos, or think it's just about technology and skills, how can subordinate leaders change their boss's mindset? So how to bring the right mindset to the higher level in the organization?
Yeah, I think it comes from developing real metrics that show that there's a lack of quality. You can go, oh, the product is poor quality. Well, if you can't show them specifically why, if you need things that say, well, I mean, we have X number of defects, and here are the worst 5. Here is how they impact the customer. If you can say, well, we found, or it's if you say something like, well, we eliminated 100 bugs before production. Well, so what? But which bugs did we eliminate? It's and I think if you're going to find that you usually, until you get that quality mindset, those metrics are going to be poor. And I think that will kind of help show.
Yeah, nobody likes the blame game ping pong between dev and QA, and maybe dev and ops and customer. Nobody likes that. So it's a really nice idea to try to prevent it beforehand. And also, if you do happen in a situation, learn from it. You said, like, learn fast, fix fast. I would also add that deliver value fast, because that's the way to do it.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
All right, there's a question about exploratory testing. With DevOps always emphasizing test automation, I'd like to hear your view on exploratory testing complementing all the automation. When is it best to happen in relation to CI/CD pipeline? Before, in the middle, as the last step?
I would say throughout, because you're running, if you're implementing continuous testing, it's a part of continuous testing. Your exploratory testing complements your automated testing. You're not running the same test cases. You're running the edge cases. You're running the test cases that pertain to usability and user experience. And those need to be done throughout, because again, if you find user experience issues, if you find issues with the workflow on a website, those are big. Those are going to take a long time to fix. So you need to find them early. I wouldn't leave exploratory testing to right before a release. It's kind of defeating the purpose.
Hi, we're from FECode, the driving force behind the DevOps conference.
Regardless of where you are on your DevOps journey, there is always the next step. With our experience in successful DevOps transformations, we're excited to support you in taking the next step.
Find us at fecode.com and have an amazing time watching the talks at the DevOps conference.